Hey everyone, thanks for joining in. Hope you can hear me. If you can, give me a thumbs up. If not, just keep making faces. Hopefully some West Coast people will join us today. Tim's here. Randall, you out driving tonight? Good evening. Chris, loved your stream this afternoon. Those GMD ones, I'm jealous. Who else we got in here? Caboose 121 debate. Yes, we're in for the debate. Tim, Randall, John is here, and hopefully I got a guest coming on, one of my West Coast friends, and so I thought I'm gonna do some decaling tonight. I'll see if I can show you this. That I've been doing these ore cars, and I got 5 of them lined up. I just got to do them methodically. So I thought I'd chat with you guys. And well, I throw some decals on here if you guys got any ideas. I know, Tim, you want to put some graffiti on them, but I think in the 60s, there'd only be chalk graffiti. There wouldn't be the fun tags we have today. But I also thought we could talk about, I always see everybody chat and gripe about rivet counters. So I just want to know what everybody's idea of a rivet counter actually is. And have you ever met one? Or is a rivet counter just a prototype modeler? And Randall just got back from a run. Are you all done, Randall? Are you still on call? You stole him fair and square. Yes, you did. And then Chris, yeah, you should. Chris, you said you're having a meetup. I know Sparky and everybody else. I saw that poster. That was kind of cool. It'd be nice if organize a Midwest meetup, next year or something at Rochelle or some other place like that. Chicago, all the museums and trains there. But so which is better, Strasburg or Steamtown? Which one do you guys think is better to anyone who's been there? I've been to neither. So I would like to know. Pair of C4s. What's a C4, Randall? Is that like a C44? AC44? Might as well start soaking some of these. Get some work done. What are you guys working on? And Tim, don't say you're working on any more kids. But back home, okay, you're on rest. Okay, you don't have to be in the van. Super train. Okay. I like that. That wasn't a TV show at one time. Anyway, see if I can explain this. So I got, these are custom decals from K4 Masabi cars. They had they changed the paint on these a lot. And what I had is so many excess ore cars. Once I got my layout operating, they come in a sheet like this. Like you can do 10 cars per sheet. So I got a couple of these extra numbers. I have so many extra ore cars that I've decided to repaint some split rock ones and sell them. And that's what this endeavor is. I had some friends who modeled Duluth Masabi and Iron Range. And I guess the ore cars are hard to come by, so I'll paint them up for them. In a hotel till Friday. Oh, John's in a hotel. Hope it's a good one. Who makes the decals? The decals are by, I got them on eBay. And cover up my name here. K4 Supply Company. And they make wonderful decals in HO and O scale. Well, here's their propaganda. I suppose I could bring this out. What's right on the back? So, okay, for decals.com, freight cars, cabooses, they do have a lot. And they happen to have ones for ore cars, which you need like 50 at a time. I don't know why Microscale just doesn't make a whole sheet of like 50 Masabi ore cars or CNW or something, but these are pretty good decals. It's they have what I want. I've used them before for some Great Northern and some Northern Pacific cars. And so who joined us? Kyle. Okay, working on the National Model Rail build. Okay, who else is doing that diorama? And now, we got our first Rivet Counter debate. All right, we're going to throw this out there. Takes the fun out of the hobby. Okay. So a rivet counter to you is not necessarily, you're not talking about their modeling preference. You're talking about how they treat fellow modelers. And I get that. So, okay. Yeah, I think anyone who picked that's, but I understand what a nitpicker is, but I don't know if a nitpicker is the rivet counter. And Chris, highball graphic makes beautiful one. My favorite is a fellow Canadian of yours and Tim's, Bill Brillinger, PDC.ca, Precision Design Corporation. He'll make custom one-off decals. If you need a decal for one car or for a special automobile, he'll do that and just make beautiful ones. I've had a couple of his. Yeah, Microscale is odd. The one thing Microscale does very well is if this is their decal sheet, they only have film around the lettering. You know, let me add my co-host here. There we go. Oh, Roy, it's my West Coast. We're on West Coast time.
Yeah.
Chris,
but you should make yours bigger and me smaller. since you're doing the actual interesting thing.
Want me to do that? Let's see if I can do it right. They're like this?
Yeah.
Okay. This is good practice.
Plus, I'm not officially a co-host because I can't do anything.
That's right. I don't know. I got to figure out how to do that. I think that's one of our lessons we need to learn. So, Chris, what's wrong with Microscale? Just they're bad with the Canadian cars, or is it something else? Well, he's waiting. Roy, you working on anything? Your current projects on the workbench?
Technically, I'm working on my NMRBO.
Oh, you too? Okay.
Thing, but I'm not working on it at the moment.
Are you doing N-scale?
Yeah. I'm doing the same thing as Cameron and James. We're all doing the AG by rail.
Oh, okay.
N-scale kit. We're doing it all differently. Cameron very differently.
Because I still have mine from last year. I built this beautiful farm diorama and then didn't know what to do with it. And I plucked the buildings off and I'm trying to sell them. If anybody wants some nice Walters farm buildings, let me know. It was fun to build, but
if they were in N-scale, I might consider it.
Yeah, that's true.
Although they might call that cheating if I took your buildings and put them on my diorama for the contest.
I wonder if they'd know. I wonder how many years until we get the first official cheater.
Or that recycles their diorama from a previous contest and just changes it a little.
Yeah. Or, you know, the one I'm thinking, like they have the youth category. It's kind of like the Pinewood Derby at the Boy Scouts. You know which dad built the car, right?
Yeah.
You know, my dad works at NASA, but I built this car, you know, and I'm like, no, you didn't.
And it's made out of like, aircraft grade
Right.
titanium or something.
Shinier chrome than a Formula One car or something. It's just, yeah, I always got a kick out of that. I'm like, no, I think we know who built that car.
Yeah, the kid probably sat there watching and maybe handed the dad tools and materials as the dad put it together.
Right.
That counts, right?
That counts as long as they touch it. I think that's the Boy Scout way. I don't know. Yeah. I shouldn't besmirch the poor Scouts here, but I know dads.
Yeah, Cameron, it would be hard to cheat, like, unless you had entered before and still had the in-progress pictures from your previous entry and then just changed things and made some new pictures. I don't know. Somebody will probably try it eventually and get called out.
Yeah. Or they'll build like the farm scene and then just keep working on it for 3 years till it comes back around again. It's like, oh, after 5 years we're gonna do this. Good. Ta-da. You know.
Yeah. I mean, you technically need to buy their kit too, unless you're in one of the states and do the open one.
Right.
So
the price wasn't that bad. I mean, I did it just. I think last summer I entered the Athern weathering contest too. They had a prime for grime contest.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really weird that they used my car in their advertising, but I didn't win.
Okay.
You know, they used my car in a couple different ads, but I didn't win. I'm like, okay.
Wow. Okay. Well, they liked it enough to use it for advertising, but
not. Yeah. I'm calling it a draw. I'm calling it a draw.
I mean, you got the publicity, right? Your car was in all their ads.
Yeah, that's all I want. You know, you just and they spelled my name right, unlike Railroad Model Craftsman. So it's just, but
yeah. Name spelling is hard when you have odd names.
Oh yeah.
I mean, your first name is normal, but your last name is a little bit odd.
Yeah, it is. Well, it's a joke. It's 6 letters. It's never been spelled right. And the truth is, the funniest thing is it was spelled wrong on our wedding cake.
Oh wow.
And I laughed and I turned to my wife. I said, "Well, welcome to the family." She's like, "How can they get that wrong?" I said, "Well, this is what they do. This is what everyone does. So don't worry about it."
Yeah. I mean, my last name is not that hard to me, but a lot of people fail at pronouncing it.
Oh, I would fail at it, you know.
But I mean, there's an L, and everyone leaves it out.
Yes, that's what I do.
Instead of Eltham.
Yeah, that's what I would call you that all the time. It's like, oh, there's Ethan. No, it's not.
Yeah, but you know, I've had that my whole life. People just can't pronounce Eltham.
Right.
When I was a kid, I used to go, "It's Eltham."
No, I'm going to do that to me. So you got to talk to me like I'm 6. That works. That works just fine. So who else do we know on YouTube that's doing the build?
I only am aware of James Cameron, and I think Heath is doing one, but not the Ag by Rail. He's doing the City one or something. But I haven't seen him actually do anything other than he shared the fact that he bought the kit.
Oh, okay. Because I remember last year, Robert is here. Hello, Robert is in the house. I know last year Heath was building that on most of his live streams.
Yeah, but last year he did the HO one. This year I think he's doing the N scale, but the City one.
Oh, okay.
I think. I'm not 100% sure because, like I said, I only remember him like showing the kit and then not anything since.
When is When is the due date?
End of June. So June 30th.
Oh, here, so everybody, you got 1 month left.
Yeah, month and a week. And I'm way behind. James and Cameron have been sharing on the Discord all their progress pictures and everything, and I'm like looking at their stuff going, man, I wish mine looked like that. You know, I barely started, basically. I built a couple of the buildings partially, and I built my little base, but I gotta basically every day after work now, except tonight, because it just came on here, I need to like put a little bit of time into it.
Yeah, I don't envy. I think that's what I like the idea, but I just put so much time into it, and I needed to put time into other things last year. So I'm like, okay, let's skip every other year.
Yeah.
But I like the idea.
Actually, I think Cameron's right. Heath did build the water tower because it's like, you know, 2 halves and then a couple little extra pieces that attach to it. And that was it.
Oh, really?
Because it's just that, you know, the Walther's water tower that looks like a ball on top of a stem.
Oh, that.
It's like the simple water tower.
Has the city's name on it, you know, small.
Yeah, although I think he's planning on doing the happy face. At least that's what he joked about.
So they didn't even. Okay, so Steve, you placed or won, didn't you? I know you were up there in the contest.
In the NMRBO, I don't think he.
I thought it was last year. Who won last year?
James got second place.
James got second place. That's who it was. Okay.
In the HO single adult or adult category.
Yeah, that was beautiful. That was beautiful.
Yeah, he did an awesome job.
That's like one of the most active channels on the Discord. I go in every day and it's lit up, and I'm like, I have nothing to add. I'll just go. Okay, the cab numbers were 3 inches high, and Robert, I'll redo the cab numbers on your KCS units. I'm not doing the stripes on the handrails. I am not. I think those stripes, those candy cane stripes going all the way down the handrails, is what kept me from modeling any KCS engine. That was,
Hey, John Arthur.
Hello, sure. John. Good evening. So who's from the West Coast here? I thought I'd be getting all the California people, and I hear I got Eastern Canada with me tonight. This is kind of fun.
Well, Steve 87th is up in Washington.
Yep. I figured he'd be here, and you.
I think, Cameron, are you, Utah or something? I can't remember where Cameron is.
It's Cameron.
He's moved.
He's one that posts all the bad weather. And Robert's usually up this late.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Cameron's in Utah, but he used to be in California or something like that.
Okay, Randall, tell us about your wild freight car. We know Heath has circus cars, so how wild can this be? When'd you find out the secret? Okay, you'll have to tell me the secret because I'm not touching those stripes on there. Lynn, hello.
Hey, Lynn.
Give it a week. And the channel quiet out. Yeah, then it'll be done till next year. Utah, okay. What part of Utah? You're not in Provo, are you? Or
he's somewhere near. He goes to the canyon to film stuff.
Oh, that's right.
Trips,
so he's up to Weber Canyon.
I think that's where it is. Yeah.
That was cool. I haven't been there in probably 30 years, but I had a lot of fun there. I had a really good friend in Salt Lake City.
I just know he calls his Railfan videos canyon therapy.
Well, yeah.
And they are kind of therapy. Like at night when I'm playing games and stuff, I'll usually just queue up a bunch of everyone's Railfan videos, like Cameron's and Jason's, and Tom Placier does sometimes when he goes on road trips, and just all the Railfanning and Trigoglin, right? Yeah. I just let him run while I'm playing, and I watch the trains go by while I'm
Oh yeah. No,
waiting.
I agree 110%. That's beautiful. Lackawanna Railfan, watching those big Alcos, for me.
Oh
So-
yeah. There's also a couple of channels that are some kids that do rail fanning of the prototype that I'm modeling in Oxnard.
Oh,
So
really?
I watch all theirs, and that's like they still get rail service basically daily during the week there. So they have trains coming from LA going up through Oxnard up to like San Luis Obispo, or not quite Guadalupe up there. And there's one on Wednesday, it just comes to Oxnard and then goes back. And then on Monday and Tuesday, on Monday it comes from Van Nuys and goes up to Guadalupe, stopping in Oxnard, and on Tuesday it goes back the other way. And then on Thursday and Friday, the same thing, goes up and then comes back. And they stop in Oxnard pretty much every day. It's pretty crazy.
That is crazy. Have you learned anything from? Is that because that's almost?
Oh
like,
yeah,
that's almost like research.
Oh yeah, no, that's how I've learned how they operate and how they interchange with the Oxnard VCRR yard. Basically, the UP hauler from Van Nuys, at least for the Wednesday one, it comes in on the main line and then drops off cars into the VCRR interchange area, and then goes over to the UP yard and drops off the rest of the cars. And then it picks up all the cars that are in that yard to take back to Van Nuys, the returns. And so like I've watched them like do videos of that operation from different positions and whatnot to learn how they do it. So I can do the exact same maneuvers that they do on my layout.
Oh, nice. Why don't you tell everybody what the VCR is so they're not.
Ventura County Railway
There
or
we go.
Railroad. It's the line that is current. It's got the Genesee and Wyoming paint scheme. They're owned by that corporate entity. But it's been there. The VCR has been there for like since the early, what was it, I can't even remember, in the early teens of the 1900s, like 1912 or something like that. The original line was built as a connection for the beet farmers in Oxnard out to Bakersfield. It never made it, but that was the original intent. But now there's a big port in Oxnard. Well, it's next to Oxnard, called Port Hueneme, and it's a big military base. But it also has, the harbor is huge, and they bring in automobiles and fruit. So like bananas and whatnot from South America and whatnot. And then they load the autos onto auto racks and ship them out, and the fruit onto reefers, modern reefers, and deliver them. And then they also get military trains and like tanks and Humvees and stuff, and they'll load them up onto ships to ship out to other bases, because that base is a CB base, so it's construction battalion, and they do repairs of the vehicles. So they have a huge lot of like all these tanks and Humvees and 5 tons and the big mortar cannon things that they drag behind Humvees and whatnot, and they're just repairing them, and then they load them back up onto flat cars to ship out to other bases or onto ships to ship out. So that's like a big part of their business, is that whole auto and fruit thing. But there's 2 lumber yards in Oxnard and 3 paper plants of different types that are all serviced by rail. And there's a little cement area that receives cement from hoppers to then load into trucks to deliver locally. It's pretty extensive rail service that's still going on, and like a portion of them are handled by the Ventura County Railway, and then a portion of them are handled by the UP local. So you see both types of trains going around, both locos and trains, from depending on which part of Oxnard it's in.
I always call the Ventura County Railway the Hollywood Railway.
Yeah, well,
any TV series or anything, when they need a train, that's who it is.
yeah, well,
It's just awesome.
That's because in Fillmore, which is a smaller town that's not far from Oxnard, there was a Fillmore and Western railway company. It's been taken over by Sierra Northern now, but they catered to the Hollywood guys with trains for TV and commercials and movies and stuff. And the two Alco S6s that ran over the DeLorean and Back to the Future were the Ventura County ones. Back in the 80s, that's what they looked like. They were like bright yellow with a pale blue stripe. Yeah. And it said Ventura County on it, but they painted over Hill Valley on it or something like that when it got ran over by a DeLorean. Or when they ran over the DeLorean with them. But that's like, that route is the way that train would pull the cars from at the time, Southern Pacific Yard down into the base, was on that track. And down to, there's also a BMW plant that receives Autorex down there, and a vehicle delivery company right next to it that both receive Autorex and fill and empty Autorex.
Awesome. No, the paper plant, are they paper mills or recycled paper? Because I've looked at some of our stuff. We send boxcars full of recycled paper out there.
Yeah, so there's the three different plants. One of them is a plant that makes the big spools of cardboard.
Okay.
The corrugated cardboard, like the regular brown cardboard, but it's like the giant, 8-foot wide and I don't know how big around spools of it that are then shipped out to other people to make packaging with. And they receive a lot of recycled paper to build the corrugated cardboard out of. And then one of the other plants is Procter & Gamble packaging plant. So they receive raw materials and make packages for Procter & Gamble products. Okay. And so they mostly get boxcars of stuff delivered, and then they fill up boxcars of packaging to ship out to wherever. And the third one, I'm not quite sure what kind of paper it is, but it looks like it's not corrugated cardboard, but just big spools of paper, and largely has a lot of recycling in it. But yeah.
Recycled paper is made into cardboard. I totally forgot about that.
Yeah.
I'm like, why would they ship it by rail? They ship huge boxcars full of all this paper.
Yeah, yeah. The one paper mill that I know of that I've seen, I've actually driven up to it and looked at it recently. It had a lot of the recycled paper came in by truck, and then they shipped out the product on rail, but not the receiving of recycled.
Okay.
Maybe they receive recycled both ways, but they definitely had a lot of trucks dropping off the recycled bundles.
Yeah, I would think the paper recycled around the Los Angeles metro area would fill up a lot.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
if you look on the map, depending on the year, because you have to go to a street view to see it at different years, but you can see the huge piles of paper.
Yeah.
The recycled bundles, right? They come in these big cubes where they're all strapped together. I'm sure you're familiar with that, but
yeah, we have a big plant here called Eureka, and my friend Dan. It's served by the Minnesota Commercial, our little short line, our Ventura County here. It's some Alcos and GEs, and they get is boxcars of recycled newsprint. And I've tracked them because we pick them up, and then they all go out to California.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
But people don't think about that. They think a warehouse. Oh, it has to be crates and this and that. No, it's these, like you said, these big, banded together, recycled.
It's almost like they took a car compactor and just compacted a bunch of paper into a square and wrap straps around it to hold it together. And that's what they just have big piles of these things. And the plant is like, I don't even know how to, it's like a series of buildings with big pipes and tanks and chemical stuff connected and attached and going between the buildings and whatnot. So I assume they're processing the paper into some kind of pulp that they then, press out into the cardboard and assemble into it's I'm pretty sure it's corrugated. So it's like 2 sheets with the corrugation in between.
Yeah. Can you imagine how much cardboard Amazon goes through?
Oh,
Yeah. Just,
yeah, it's ridiculous. The cardboard and those little bubble wrap envelopes with their logos on them that they use a lot for small things.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I never see those. My wife only orders the big stuff. So
yeah. Depends on what you order. Like if you just get I just recently got some, dice for Magic because I'm back into playing Magic the Gathering.
Oh, nice.
At work, we play multiplayer 4 and 6 player games. And there's little marker dice that you use for putting on your cards to say, oh, this one's a +1/+1 or something.
Right.
I ordered one of those and it came in this bubble wrap envelope. It's opaque, right? It's not see-through, but it's got the bubble wrap padding as an envelope, and it's got the Amazon logo on it. And you get a lot of those.
They have. I went to one hobby shop to pick up paint, and it was actually a game shop. I forgot what it's called. It's in St. Paul, and they have probably 20 tables. These whatever long table, 8 foot by 3 foot tables, whatever, and they let everybody game in there. You want to play Warhammer or D&D or Magic or whatever, you can go in, and that's why I watched them play Magic. But they had paints and miniatures and figurines that I couldn't get. The Citadel stuff, right?
Yeah.
Which really, the model train shop's not going to carry. They probably now carry Citadel, but they're not.
Yeah, you have to go to War Games Workshop to get Citadel usually,
right?
Or their own paints, but
right. And so then I went to the shop to go check it out, and they actually had 2 tables in the back, and you could go in there and bring your project and paint. If you wanted to paint your Warhammer, your figurines, and ask help of anyone around there. And I always thought, I wonder if I should go in there and bring a train and see how many train nerds I can find. But yeah, those are cool games. I miss active games like that, Catan and Magic and stuff. I'm not a video game guy, so.
Oh, I'm a video game guy, but.
Oh, are you too? Yeah, I knew you are too, but.
But I also play a lot of board games. At work, we have a weekly Magic night. It's on Thursday nights, and then the boss does board games once a month, roughly. We go and play things like Spartacus or Catan or one of the ones that we just played recently was the Battlestar Galactica board game based on the sci-fi series. Not the old one from the 70s, but the more modern one that was on the Sci-Fi Channel. That one's fun. Just various board games. Just to answer, John Arthur was looking at the pictures of the Back to the Future thing. I'm pretty sure they painted over the name of the railway. Those locos, when you find them, taking actual pictures of them, they say Ventura County Railway on them, and I think they changed it to some other name, but left railway.
No, I think I've read the only time I've seen Ventura on it is when they do TV shows and they drive by, and the TV show just wants a train going by. They're not going to pay to repaint it.
Right.
So you see those Alcos going by. Okay, so Robert asked the Senate hearings. Yeah, I listened to those. I watched them on YouTube. Train limiting to 8,000 feet. They'll never do it. They'll never go back. That's what's sad. I don't want to get into the politics of that, but everything about those hearings told the railroads what they're doing is wrong, but the railroads are making money for the stockholders, and they don't care. So you guys all got to watch 3 miles of train go by, amongst other things. Okay, Vallejo, Citadel, Army painter stuff. Okay.
I use Vallejo mostly.
Yeah, Vallejo is beautiful. I like their air.
Yeah, that's what I have.
I'm just like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, I use the Vallejo Air, and I just put it directly into the airbrush with like 1 or 2 drops of the flow improver, and that's
Right.
it.
Yeah, I like that flow improver too.
Yeah,
But yeah, if I can get a color in air, I'll get that. I would. That's my preferred paint. Now
yeah.
that or Tamaya, actually, in the little jars.
Yeah, so you can see
I
right
learned
there.
a dirty secret.
There's my racks of all my Vallejo paints. There's a handful of non-Vallejos behind there, but
what racks are those?
the ones that Vallejo sells. You can get them on Amazon. They're not very expensive.
Okay.
They're just like laser cut plywood, thin laser cut plywood. I think they're like $20 a piece.
Right. I know Heath, one of his sponsors, says that, and
that's
what I need to get. My if I pulled out a drawer, they're all rolling around. But I think
that CMR, I think, is the name of that sponsor. It's a former sponsor of Heath because they stopped being able to make any product because they couldn't get the wood, apparently,
which is odd because
well, it's a certain grade of wood, so
yeah,
I can believe it. But so I kept trying to buy stuff from them, and they never had anything in stock for like 8 months.
Yeah,
and so
that's the tough. We want to keep the hobby shops, but they can't keep anything in, And
great song, Eric.
What's Eric saying? Oh yeah, Ventura Highway. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, the monster trains. I agree, Randall. You hear it from us too. You know what we're complaining about here. Ventura Highways. Is that America? That's not. Is that an Eagle song or is that America?
I think it's America. It's an old 70s song, I think.
I looked that one. I think America were they were Air Force brats. Their dads were all in the Air Force.
I just remember Horse with No Name and a few others.
But like the standard joke goes, you think after 3 days he could have named the horse,
Yeah.
You're out there for 3 days. You could have called it something, It's just,
yep.
Come on, man. But yeah, I miss those 70 type songs. They don't have all that stuff anymore. It's odd how things go in and out of. But I'm sure it's sad that all the stuff I grew up as a teenager is now on the oldies channel, or in an elevator, so I can't. I'm like, I know this song. Listening to Guns N' Roses at the grocery store is kind of odd.
Yeah.
They're playing Nirvana. Did you?
Oh, I know. It's funny flipping to the classic rock channel, and it's like stuff from it is classic to nowadays. It's like from the 90s. To me, classic rock is 60s and 70s, not 90s.
To us, yeah.
Or even 50s, like the late 50s classic rock. Some of that very early rock. But yeah. Eric confirmed it was America.
Oh, good. Okay. So our trivia, we were close.
Yeah. Yeah. So did Randall. Confirmed it. They both did.
So who has to go to Charlottesville? Is that the hobby shop or? Okay, there's a good one. There's a good one in Charlottesville. Okay, they must be talking about the game shop. Okay, yeah, the game shops. And I think if you did a comparison, I'm sure Ogre Blood Red is about the same as, Sioux Line Red, it's the Monster Green is pretty close. Oh, that's Burlington Northern. Okay, I can match that up,
Yeah, like I have some crazy colors with the Vallejo Air because I got a big pack of colors and it's like zombie flesh and dead flesh and rotting flesh and all these, and they're
Yeah.
they're useful colors, but to think of the names is like,
Yeah.
I used zombie flesh on this under foundation piece or something.
Yeah, that's and you're like, wait a minute, that kind of looks like ore rust. Yeah, Olive Garden. Yeah, playing Nirvana. Yeah, that's what I hear that at the grocery store, and I'm like, okay,
Yeah,
it's over. It's over. I'm like, they're playing Teen Spirit here in the elevator. I just
yeah.
Stairway to Heaven or something there.
Yeah, well, some of that stuff keeps coming back around because modern artists cover them, and then the kids are all like, you start singing a song that you knew from the ages, and kids hear you and go, oh, that's the whatever modern artist name song. And I'm like, no, they just covered it.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny. What was it, about 3 years ago on Twitter, and Kanye West did something with Paul McCartney, and people were tweeting that, man, this Paul McCartney guy's going to blow up because he's been with Kanye. He's going to be someone now.
Yeah.
I was just like, excuse me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think if you do a little Googling, you'll find out that he's probably bigger than Kanye.
Yeah, he's been around the block. Yeah. Yeah, it's fun there. All right, so what is John asking here? Tried speed
or contrast? I'm not sure what he means.
Yeah, can you elaborate, John? Because I follow everything from the military guys, and I've tried to follow the minis, but a lot of the mini guys show you their completed work. They never show you how they do it. There was one guy, I think he worked for Citadel, and then he was like their painter, and he'd show you how he did everything. He's the first guy I saw use a wet palette. Have you guys ever heard of that?
Yeah, no, I know what a wet palette is.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
I learned about that a long time ago.
Oh, did you? Okay, yeah. See, I only learned that from the miniature guys.
Yeah, well, so way back, I got into playing really old school version of Warhammer. I don't think it was even called Warhammer, but it was wargaming. Wargaming with little minis, right? And I was attempting to paint them, and I was horrible at it. But friends of mine that were good at it were using wet palettes back then, so I already knew about it. But I way prefer the airbrush.
Yeah,
for almost everything I can do.
There's some fabulous minis. I had a guy at work does Warhammer, and he had me paint their like burned out structures for they play on a table and they put obstacles out there. And so he gave me this huge, like building that was blown up and stuff, and it had all these parts. And he's like, can you make this look like that? I said, yes, I can. And I painted it and weathered it and washed it and had wires sticking out and did all this and tile floors. And I gave it back to him. He's like, how did you do that? And I'm like, well, I dirt up trains for a living. So
that's interesting, John. He's so apparently they have a paint that is both a paint and a wash all in one.
How does that work?
I'm not sure, but it sounds interesting.
Because wouldn't a wash be a contrasting color?
Yeah. Or just more of the color in the nooks and crannies, maybe.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it settles in there.
Yeah. I guess it's trying to make it easier to paint your figures faster. Or your tanks or your dragons or whatever else you're painting.
I was painting a roller. The custom car culture. One of the things, Eric, about the custom car culture that they're really excellent on is the coatings. And I think that's where a lot of us fall short, is what we get it painted, but then the varnish finish. And I'm always like, these guys paint these cars and cycles and motorcycle helmets, but then they put on this clear acrylic coat, and it's just makes it come alive.
Yeah.
And that'd be kind of cool.
Very glossy and reflective too.
Yeah.
Which, like, a lot of people don't want their model trains to be glossy and shiny. They want them to be all beat up and
Right.
worn out. So, but you can still benefit from clear coating. It's one of the things I learned from watching like Adam Savage Tested channel. Him and some of the other guys that do things on there, they talk about, they put on their base paint, and before they do their washes or anything, they put a clear coat over it.
Yeah.
And then they do washes, and then they'll do another clear coat, and then they'll do powders, right? Like they clear coat to sort of protect the layers from being damaged by the next layer you put on top.
Yeah. That's the great debate that I've seen I've seen the guys from the rodeo shop. They'll put on a layer of powder or whatever, oils, and then they'll dull coat it to seal it. And then they'll go with the next layer. And some people are saying that dulls it down too much. I haven't seen that.
No, it probably depends on the type of dull coat you use. Because I know that like some people, some of the videos, I can't tell you the specifics, I'm sorry, but like some of them say like you got to use this particular type. Otherwise, it doesn't work as well, right? Like
right.
It's not a brand necessarily. It's just like there's a few different styles of coating, clear coating.
Yes.
Including more than just one type of dull or matte, right? Because you have matte, and then you have satin, and then you have gloss, and you have varying between those as well.
Right.
I'm by no means an expert, but I've watched a lot of content on it to try to learn from.
Right. Yeah, I can't get enough of that.
Yeah, and I've been watching, Maker and people like the wargaming guys and just the diorama modeler type people like Boyle Hobby Time and stuff like that, where they're not really train related directly. They might do train stuff occasionally, but like they do like scratch building from a random bits of crap,
right,
and then painting it up to look like some awesome, building or vehicle or whatever.
Well, that's the cosplayers.
Yeah, them too.
What they do with foam and hot glue is miracles.
Yeah, well, one of my favorites in that category is Punished Props. Those two, it's a husband and wife channel, and they do a lot of foam cosplay type props and outfits and whatnot, and they share all these techniques, including like using 3D printers for parts of it, and foam, mixing materials and getting them all to fit together, and lots of tips and tricks. It's really cool, and I've been watching that stuff for years before I even got into model railroading.
I watched some. They were showing how to weather how to weather your pants and clothes to make like get a Mad Max look. I'm like, weathering. They were spray painting and doing all this stuff. I'm like,
oh yeah. Like Adam Savage just recently had a few videos on building a spacesuit for a bit, and he used airbrush to paint in the weathering on the spacesuit. Airbrushes and dust and just like all different stuff, and it's amazing watching the process. Like he sews the crap together or assembles it all, but then also does all this layering and weathering on top of it, and you see it like as it's going through the stages, and you get to the end, and it's like that looks like somebody actually really used that spacesuit for several trips, right?
Yes. That is genius. That is just yeah. No, I appreciate that. It's art. I mean, what we do is art.
Yeah. But there's a lot to learn from those guys, even though it's not directly train or model railroading related. Just learning the techniques and the tips that they have for certain things apply across the board.
Yep. I tell everybody, if you steal one of my ideas, you've stolen twice. So
yeah, because I stole it from somebody else.
Because I stole it from someone, and I'm calling it my own. So, but it's no, I like that with our hobby, and that's the way most hobbies are too. How'd you get that? How'd you make that great costume? Well, I'll show you. Here's my video. And So John, so who's it? Oh, Robert. Okay, Tamiya Lacquer. Yeah, Tamiya Lacquer. Their gloss coat is my favorite. For flat coat, I like VMS now. That's my new favorite. I'm in love with. But,
Yeah, the only ones I currently have are just the Vallejo ones that came in that kit. There's like a dull or matte and a semi-gloss and gloss, and they seem okay to me. But I also only have tiny amounts of them because it's just those little bottles.
right. And the spray cans I like, but they just use them up so quick. But
Yeah.
if you're weathering something, and I watched Gary Christensen do this from the weathering shop, he's fantastic. You know, he'd weather something with chalks or acrylics, get it where he wants it, spray on the Tamiya dull coat, and then hold it to like a space heater for about 15 seconds, and it's cured. So then you can go on to the next level.
Yeah, one of the things that you see Adam and Bill, who is the guy on Punish Props, they use hair dryers and heat guns to dry their paint quicker, so they can go to the next step.
Yeah, I do that.
They're patient.
Yeah, I am too. I use a hair dryer, especially on acrylics. And I think that's what annoys me sometimes about weathering with oils is I have to wait.
Takes forever to dry.
Yeah. Takes forever to dry. But then again, I always think about it and I can go back the next day and fix it. So
yeah,
I fight that battle in my head all the time.
Yeah.
So we decided what a rivet counter is. So I think we're using a misnomer that for rivet counter we should be a nitpicker, which I don't care for either.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of the unsolicited advice.
Yeah, like for me, I don't mind if somebody is particular and really wants their stuff to look, as accurate as possible, aka rivet counting their own stuff. Right. What I mind is when they go start telling everyone else that they have to do it as well.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. And that's inappropriate.
Yeah. No, I mean, if somebody asks you, hey, what can I do to this to make it look more realistic? Then sure, tell them, right? But don't just go tell them you have to do this or it won't be acceptable.
Yeah, here I got a picture of that, and it's 2 inches too small, and that's unacceptable. So here we're talking about these Krylon sprays, and to me the product is good. It's just how it's delivered. I wish you could buy, and somebody says you can, better nozzles to put on the spray can. Because the Krylon ones always clog and then it's spitting out spots, and I'm like, I would just like a smooth. That's why Tamiya, I heat up Tamiya in warm water before I use it. So
yeah, one of the things I've seen a couple of times is people that will take a rattle can and basically empty some of it into a cup so they can then put it in an airbrush to get more fine control. So
that is genius.
Yeah,
I'm gonna steal that one.
Because like if you just hold the spray can right up to some little cup, you can spray it in and you'll get just some liquid paint, right? And you just add in your reducer or whatever if it's needed, and you can.
So what is Krylon then? What would like Krylon clear dull coat? What would you use to thin that?
I honestly don't know. I just have seen that in the past in videos where they wanted that particular color that they had a rattle can of, but they wanted to use the airbrush to get the more fine control. So they sprayed it into a cup and mixed in some reducer of some kind. I don't know. It was probably just alcohol at that point.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I suppose.
Because that's
what's decanter mean? Does maybe I don't.
Decanter the can, like empty the paint out of the can without the aerosol, basically. Is that the Closet Branch is here? Hello.
Good evening. Randall. And then, right, the shades of paint. So the great debate is you have to paint what looks good on your layout. You know, you take the same models out in the sunlight, you know, unless it's Robert and KCS white units. but if you took, you know, BNSF engines, you know, under the lighting here with LEDs to sunlight to fluorescent, you're going to get different colors.
Oh yeah. Well, I've also, like, I've seen a lot of UP and BNSF locomotives because you know, obviously the Railfanning videos of the Oxnard area, there's a ton of UP locos, and then I live in San Diego, which is a lot of BNSF, and like no two locos are the same shade unless they're both brand new just off the paint shop, right?
You are correct, and they can't be.
And even brand new ones, they're slightly different just because that paint shop, the paint was older or newer, right? And slightly different shades. But yeah, I've seen, you know, people are complaining, oh, my UP models, the Athearn ones are slightly more orangey yellow, but the whatever, you know, Scaltrains ones are brighter yellow and it looks weird. Well, go look at any Railfan video of a consist of 4 or 5 UP locos and you'll see 4 or 5 shades of yellow.
Yeah, I agree. I know that as I crawl on them. I'm like, well, who painted this one? You know, and then you look painted 1992 in Little Rock. You know, of course, okay, this is a little lighter than that one.
Yeah, because it's got 20 plus years of weathering, you know, aging in the sun. It's part of it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. And I think that is one of the skills of weathering that a lot of people have to work on, including myself, is the fade. You know, and I've seen a lot of different ways to fade paint. And there's some really creative ways out there, and there's a lot of ways that don't work. Ask me how I know.
Because you've tried them.
I've tried them. I'm like, yeah, that looks like crap. Let me strip and repaint it.
So one of the things that I did a little bit on my building for the build crew build and also the Jack one is using a light colored wash that has been really thinned out to create a fade effect. Like you just put it on the whole thing and just let it dry with a thin layer of wash over the whole thing, and it essentially fades it out.
Really?
But only, like, you have to use white or light gray and really, really thin it out, and it can work. It's not great, but it can create a fade effect. And it's an uneven fade effect, which is usually what you want anyway. You don't want it to be evenly faded. But it depends on your...
David says he's modeled the Rock Island in 70. Yes. My friend Greg Dahl models the Rock Island and doing it. Rock Island lets you, the more mistakes you make painting them, the better it looks.
So, yeah, the more accurate it will be to the prototype.
that was some grade A crap, and from 75 to 80, the demise, and just I love the Rock Island, but yeah, you know, you can just fade everything. Yeah, it's just, and like the military guy I follow was that Panzermeister 36. I talked to him about fading. He won't use white. The only time he'd use white to fade a car or to fade anything is if the car was gray.
Yeah.
But mostly he'll take whatever shade the car is, and he'll find paint one shade or two, whatever shade lighter, whatever that is,
okay, yeah.
and then coat it with that.
Yeah.
And then kind of rub it off.
Yeah.
And the dot fading. So I've seen the dot for weathering, but I've never seen it for fading.
So by dot fading, does that mean like just speckling little dots of a color on top of the solid color?
I do not. That's what I've seen. They put the dots on, and then you get a wash and blend it in.
Okay.
And then the opposite color. See, I've tried that on an airbrush. So when I was painting a car, I had a green car, and I had white to fade it with, but I did this opposite color. So I put a couple drops of red in my airbrush cup, and it faded it perfectly.
Uh-huh.
But I tried it with a yellow car, and it looked horrible. I'm like, okay, I can't do that, you know. So I'm like,
Well, because the opposite of yellow would be in the CYMK
yeah,
wheel instead of the RGB wheel, really.
right, and that's what it was. So it was just,
Yeah.
okay. What are you saying? Okay, he's saying, yeah, I don't have to hide my mistakes for the Rock Island. Yeah,
Yeah, John clarified that was right. But use multiple colors for the dots, not just one
okay,
color.
okay. That's what I thought. Yeah, you fade what you're gonna do there because I've seen that for weathering.
Yeah.
Okay, on red, wash a pink, red, and a very light
Yeah.
green. Oh,
Yeah, like you said, the opposite of yellow is sort of purple magenta.
Right.
So
then,
it's difficult to make that look right because it's going to overpower the yellow.
Yeah, that's what it did on those Minnesota commercial cars I made. The one that was in RMC.
Oh.
that one got a do-over because I'm like, oh, I got to fade because they were just so light yellow. You know, when UP sold them, they were just horrid. So I'm like, oh, I got to fade the crap out of these.
Uh-huh.
And okay, the opposite color didn't work well.
Yeah, you'd have to get like a very magenta, but then just a super tiny amount of it.
Right. And I think that's where I overdid it.
Yeah.
And I should have not overdid it. And
yeah,
light colors are tricky to fade. You know, I don't know why I picked yellow for my engines. I'm such a fool. You know, it's. I'm serious. I don't know how Robert does white engines, but I'm like, why did I sign up for yellow? And
wow.
it's like 15 coats. You guys have no idea how many coats of paint are on split rock diesels.
To get the color to actually show, yeah.
Right.
Because yellow is so difficult to get coverage.
And I've tried different things too. Like I used to primer it with silver. One of the things Eric probably knows this from painting. If you're going to paint red, you know the guys do candy apple red. They'd primer it in silver,
right?
And the red would just pop.
Yeah,
you know.
That's one of the tricks that I learned from watching the prop guys and the cosplay guys. Is if you want something to look like shiny metal, you start out with gloss black.
Yep.
And then you put on like rub and buff or other metallic coats on top of gloss black. And it ends up looking much better than if you try to just put the metallic, like chrome or silver on top of, whatever base color instead of gloss black.
Well, that's the British metal I paint, all clad, which I just love. But you have to primer. They have like this gloss black primer.
Yeah.
And you basically, and I'm painting passenger cars, like silver aluminum passenger cars. You paint them this gloss black, and then I take like a Tupperware bowl and I cover them. So there's like no dust even is going to get on them. Right. And yeah, here's Eric saying, yeah, gloss black and make it look like a mirror. Right. Yeah. It's just, you never would have thought of that until you saw, like you said, these auto body guys or these modeler guys do this.
Yeah. One of the things that I know from doing computer graphics shader work for games and stuff is that we use a thing called PBR, which is physically based rendering. And that the way that works is you have your albedo, which is the base color of the material, and then you have roughness and metallic. And so you can make any color look really metallic by turning down the roughness so it's smooth and turning up the metallic. And it gets super gloss, shiny, like, candy apple red type bright colors from any color. Even dark black you can make look like a shiny mirror with metallic settings. And it helps you understand that, like, when a mirror isn't really all that bright natively, it's just very reflective, which makes it look bright.
Correct. Yeah, that's a great way to put it, Roy. I like that.
Yeah.
That it just, the reflectivity is adding the sharpness to that.
Yeah, and making it look shiny because it's reflecting everything perfectly or near perfectly, right?
Right.
And when it reflects everything, when it reflects all the light hitting it, or as much of it as it can, it's going to look really bright or really dark if there's no light, right? Which is why mirrors look black in the dark.
Because nothing's reflecting off it.
Yep.
So pan pastels instead of airbrushing. I have a love-hate relationship with pan pastels. They're not very forgiving, for one thing. And if you use a lot of them, which I did I used them for the inside of my ore cars to show like the weather-beaten metal and stuff.
Right.
And there was so much dust. I should have worn like a mask, pre showstopper mask. I should have just, because I was like blowing my nose and stuff, and I'm like, what's coming out? Oh, pan pastel. I was like,
yeah.
Oops,
that's one of the things. Even with even when I'm airbrushing acrylic paints now, I still wear a mask, just because the first few times I didn't wear a mask using airbrushed acrylics, which it's somewhat safe. It's not going to kill you or anything, but you blow your nose afterward and it comes out whatever color you were painting.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. Rock Island blue.
So I just have a thin little simple mask that I throw on when I'm using the airbrush now.
Good night, Robert. Thanks for dropping in.
See you, Robert.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, windows that's a tough model, but like you said, if you apply those physics to them, that they're reflective and not a color.
Right. Yeah. And like it's similar here in California, at least Southern California, to what Eric was saying. Like when it's sunny, you don't really see into the windows. You just see everything reflected off of them. Unless it's nighttime and they have a light on inside, then you see in. But
yes, which is always fun.
Okay, Cameron. See you later.
Is Cameron leaving too? Oh, good night, my friend.
Yep. And my windows on my house have a minor amount of tinting on them, so they're a little bit even more reflective because they help reduce the heat coming into the house through the windows by reflecting off some of the sun.
We're having a good painting discussion tonight. I thought we'd be talking about nitpickers, but learning lots of lessons there.
Yeah. I think it's just that nobody likes nitpickers, so we don't want to talk about it.
Yeah. or trolls. That's what I said. I always like, what comments are you going to get on your videos that are but why give them the attention that they want? So I just.
Hello, Dwight. I don't think I've seen you before, but you're probably one of Thomas's subs.
Dwight Krisman.
He says Northern Star.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Well, I'm trying to do a show that doesn't interfere with the 500 other shows and is a little West Coast friendly for my friends Roy and everyone else.
Yeah.
That it's, when these guys on the East Coast, have a 7:00 show and I got to get on it,
Yep. Hey, Nancy. Yes, we can see your comment.
Hello, Nancy. So, yeah, I'm hoping to make late night Wednesdays a couple times a month on the workbench. And hopefully my layout is back to running again.
Cool.
I'm
do
building,
some operations.
Yeah, do some operations. I'm building the interchange tracks. In fact, I got it laid out. I don't know if you can see this. I'll make a mess here, but this will be the next build.
Oh, okay. You're working on a custom double turnout.
Yeah, so this will be the main, and then that's the switch lead, and then those will go to the interchange tracks.
Okay.
And we'll get ore cars from the Great Northern and the Masabi and the Northern Pacific.
Oh, okay.
It just adds to the operation. But yeah, we'll hopefully do some ops. And like to see some ops on your railroad, get your little one going again. It's tough in the summer here in the Midwest because we just don't want to be inside.
Yeah. Well,
so I'm hoping something like this keeps me spurred on.
For me in the summer, excuse me.
You want to be inside.
I want to be inside because it's too hot.
Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully I'll get my cameras set up on the layout again so I can share, at least stream my trains running. And I've been doing sort of like my own little practice ops, not really using any rhyme or reason software or anything. Just, hey, I've got this train here. I'm going to deliver it and split up the cars and deliver them to these random spots. Right, just make it up and do the operation just to sort of. I've used that and I've sort of made adjustments to my track layout and where the switches are at, and to make it less problematic. Finding the areas where when I try to back the train across this spot, it always derails. So let me adjust the tracks here a little bit.
Those are the best sessions. I mean, I ran my yard the other day just to put things back, and it was very relaxed. It was therapeutic. I wasn't under pressure to do anything. I just, let me just arrange this and do this, and I'm going to do it with an engine.
Yeah.
And see you, John. And it was just,
yes, you do.
It's therapeutic. So I like you said, I just, if I don't have a switch list, hey, I got 5 cars here. Let me go move them.
Yeah. And the nice thing, one of the things you guys were talking about, the really long trains, the trains that come into Oxnard are, rarely very long. Not like you guys are talking about. Like they might have, 20 auto racks and a handful of other cars total, right? They're not the monster 2 mile long, 3 mile long trains. For one, I don't think they'd be able to get them over the hill from LA to Oxnard.
Well, they have to use pushers and stuff, but
well, they have these trains that are not super long. I can't tell you the length of it because I don't really know. It's like I've seen some with as many as 20 auto racks and maybe a dozen other box cars and hoppers and whatnot. But they use like 4 or 5 GVOs to pull them. And it's because it's coming over a hill from LA. And then when they go north out of Oxnard, they end up going along the coast, and then there's a little bit of an upgrade to get into Guadalupe, I think.
Yeah, I think I'm trying to remember that hill, Chatsworth Pass or something, but the coastline wasn't flat, so.
Yeah, but it's not terrible, but you're right, it's not flat. I mean, there's stretches of it that are flat, but then it has ups and downs because it's like some parts of the California coastline are cliffs, right? They're not beaches.
Yeah, it's pretty high. So Eric, at Crossing Gate, okay, there was my laptop had a catastrophic failure. I didn't want to advertise that, but yeah, I thought it was the battery. I thought the battery just died, but no, it was the main thing. And so I finally just got it back, and it died and took everything with it. It took all the podcasts, all my photos, all everything. So we recorded a podcast last night that I hope to edit and get out by this Friday. And
you need to get yourself a backup solution.
Yeah.
You don't lose your data like that.
I did have a solution, but being the typical guy, I didn't use it.
So my machines back up continuously. I have a Synology NAS in my walk-in closet, and I run a process. And whenever my machine's on, anytime I create new files, it just syncs them in the background to the NAS.
I don't know what that is. Can you talk down to me?
So a NAS is a network attached storage. It's basically a little server box that it's like a computer, but it's not a very powerful computer, and then it has a bunch of drive bays for hard drives to be large storage.
So is it like terabytes and stuff? Because I've got the portable, I've got little portable plug-in terabyte ones that I've been marching everything into.
Yeah, that's one mechanism. I used to do that, but this is actually a machine hooked up on my network, and I've got 5 8 terabyte drives in it.
Wow.
As a big RAID, and it runs its own operating system. It's not Windows. It's the Synology. I forgot what they call it, but it's their own operating system, and it's meant to be server storage. And it's running an OS, and then you run little processes on your computer that can connect to it and back up to it. And I like my documents folder. It's on my local machine, but it's synced to the NAS, the Synology, continuously. Like as I add files, they just get backed up over there. My video files, when I'm working on videos, get backed up over there in the background.
Is it physically connected, or is it like the cloud? It just goes over there.
Well, that level of it is just it's in my house on my network, backing up my main machine to that thing, and then I have a setup where that thing backs itself up to the cloud. So my machines back up to that, and then that thing backs itself up to the cloud.
What does that? I don't mean to pry. Give me a ballpark figure. What does a NAS cost?
Well, you can get a small one. I've got a really big one because I've got lots of crap on it, and I'm sort of a tech nerd. But you can get a reasonably small one for a few $100.
Okay.
Or even maybe a little cheaper, and then put your own drives in it. But usually they sell them with like a couple of rather big drives in them. Right? You can buy like a little 2-bay NAS, and it'll come with like 2 4 terabyte drives or something like that. And I think it might be like $400 or $500 total with the drives.
Yeah.
If that. Mine I think is with no drives was $800 or $900. And then the drives are 8 terabyte drives that I bought a while back, but they were a couple $100 each. So it adds up. But I like having it's got redundancy in it because it's a RAID, so you don't get the full 40 terabytes. You get like 30 something, 35, 34, something like that.
What does that mean? Because it's a RAID.
So RAID is when you have multiple drives treated as one, and then they have extra data on the drive so that if one of the drives fails, you can plug in a new drive and it will recover the lost data from the other drives. It's somewhat magical without me having. I'd have to go to. It's a highly technical thing to explain it. So there's extra data on all the drives so that you can basically recover
whatever
lost data if you lose one of the set, right? One drive of the set,
right?
And the there's different flavors of it. So like I'm just doing the sort of simple version of it. There's more complicated higher end raids where there's like even more drives are involved and they have failovers and whatnot. But you know, some of the IT guys in the crowd may not be here anymore, but Cameron, I think, is one of them. He left already, but yeah. I actually use the Synology has their own RAID mechanism. It's a hybrid RAID thing, which is a little more flexible. That's what I currently use because I'm fully bought into their system. But in the general case, like David said there, RAID 5 is usually the best solution. That gives you the best data protection as far as, if you lose a drive, recovering your data. But like for my most important data, I also like back it up on a USB drive and stick it in a fire safe and things like that. So I have multiple backups of the really important stuff. Taxes and crap like that.
That's good. Yeah, no, that's like brilliant advice there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've been in computers since I was a little kid. And like my first job was working in a computer store, having to repair people's computers and try to recover their data from their hard drives that were lost. And this was old school, late 80s, early 90s, when you didn't have hard drive recovery services. You just mail the hard drive to and have them do it. So I was literally like hooking up the hard drive and using what they call a sector editor. It's like some software you run that literally looks at each little individual piece of the hard drive and hand editing bits of the data to try to recover. This tax accountant had lost some tax data from one of their customers because their hard drive crashed. That kind of thing, and actually recovered the data for them. So that's why I learned to keep multiple backups, is that kind of stuff.
Oh no, yeah. That's brilliant. That's something I need. I'll talk to you off stream sometime, and you can say, get this and this and this, and here's how you hook it up.
See you later, Closet Branch.
Yeah, good night. Thanks for stopping in.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not anywhere near to the level of some people. I just I'm not too worried about most of my data if I lose it. Just the most important stuff I make sure is backed up accordingly.
Right. No, that's good. You mean, like you said, you don't have to be at everyone's level. You have to be at a level that's comfortable for you. That's right. The same with model trains. You don't have to be the cover of Model Railroader to be a Model Railroader.
Exactly.
You need to be at a level that makes you happy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the hobby's here to serve you.
Don't become a slave to it. Right.
Don't. It's like, I got to get this done, or I got to do this, or I have to do better. No one likes this, and no, you're wrong. Everybody likes it.
Well, like doing the build for the build crew, sort of helped sink that in for me, because I looked at it and was like, this is crap. But then I shared it with everyone, and they're all like, how great it is, and so I have to accept that it's not as crappy as I think it is.
Yeah, we are our own worst critics. I think that was something that I even had an ad from our podcast, was we always throw ourselves under the bus. When somebody's, oh, Roy, you did great on that building. This looks just like it. That's really good. And all of us, instead of saying thank you, like, well, I smudged the paint on that window, and that should have been gray, and the flagpole's too, it's like, stop, just say thank you. You made a great building. We all do that with our car. Well, this isn't right, and that. And it's like, no one knows until you tell them.
Yeah. And prior to, I talked about in the past where I did painting of miniatures, I never did it very well or seriously. So really, this stuff with the model railroading is the first time that I've really tried to build building kits and whatnot and paint them to try to make them look reasonable enough to go on my layout and look, acceptable or good. And so it's been a big learning process for me. Having to go back and rewatch videos that I've watched before just to see the exact details of how something worked so I could try to replicate it and stuff like that.
You think that national build is helping you improve your skills? Are you looking at models a little differently?
Yeah, well, like part of the reason I decided to go into it was because I wanted to learn more stuff and use it as a learning process. Like, I don't really care if I even win, or I honestly don't even care if I enter. I just want to do it and use the stuff that I got from it and try to make something that I think looks cool. I'm failing at that right now because work got really busy and I got sick for a little while, and so I'm way behind, but I still have a month and a week, so I'm going to attempt to dive in.
To do what you can. So what you're doing the build off for is also usable on your layout?
No, I'm building a diorama. I
Okay.
probably won't use any of it on my layout. It'll just be something that I use to learn.
Okay. Yeah, because I had my diorama. I should have showed it on a live stream, but
Yeah.
Half of it I think is beautiful. I did the track and I made a main line track and then a spur with and then like a ditch with weeds and a swamp in there, and that all came out great. But I didn't know what to do with the other half. But none of that I could use on my layout, and I think that was frustrating to me. That like when I'm done with this, I'm just gonna sell it or give it away. I'm like,
yeah, for me, I just decided up front that I didn't. It doesn't need to be on my layout. I'm just gonna learn with it. So like I'm building the buildings and I'm building gonna do, like, it's gonna be the first time that I'm doing ballasting and terrain at a serious level. I did like a tiny bit of terrain stuff on my build for Jack contest a while back, like some grass around the building and stuff like that. But this will be a little more extensive scenery stuff and trying to get the buildings to look blended in and whatnot. So, and like I said, I none of it is anything I could really use on my layout. It's like an old time grain elevator, which there isn't any of that in Oxnard. And it's like a farm supply store and a storage building for grain. Like those are the building kits that came with it. And then I bought a barn and a farmhouse that I'll build that will go on there as well. But like, it's not anything that I could really put on my layout, my in-scale layout.
Okay, yeah, nothing to Ventura. Okay.
Yeah. And I don't mind. It's a 3 foot by 2 foot thing that I'll just keep until it's destroyed, probably in a move or when I run out of space and strip off some of the pieces and throw it away or something like that years from now. I do a lot of that. I end up with things that I've worked on and they're just packed away in a box somewhere in a closet or in my storage room.
What was the Jack build?
Oh, that was the Out of Time building. It was scrap. Was take a kit and then also take materials like wood and metal and styrene plastic, like from garage sale signs and stuff like that, and modify the kit with that. And I took a DPM kit and turned it into a nightclub called Out of Time, based on Back to the Future Out of Time, and modified it with some, wood and metal and whatnot to meet the rules that Jack had set up.
Oh, cool.
And I liked it. I thought it came out pretty good. I used some pretty outlandish colors because it was meant to be a nightclub. So it was like purple and bright red. But then I did a lot of washes over it, so it looks old and worn out. But I also did like the parking lot where I had the street on the edge, and I made a sidewalk, painted it concrete, and did some like, planters with the grass and a couple trees. And behind the building, I had some static grass and some other, that foam turf stuff. Just practicing a little bit with scenery, and it came out okay, but I could probably do a lot better with some practice, which is why, like I said, I want to build this NMRBO thing.
Oh, that's a good way. That's
yeah.
I see Steve's going to bed. Night, Steve. Thanks for stopping by.
Yeah. See you, Steve.
Yeah, no, I like that idea of.
Yeah.
I always like people trying to improve their skills. I'm always trying, I know where my weaknesses are, and I'm like, okay, I have to work on that.
Yeah. And
I should.
And I want to make my real layout, when I actually start doing the scenery and painting the buildings for that, I want to have already had practice so that I can do a little bit better on that before I actually do the scenery on my main layout. So that's why, like, I've got this NMRBO thing and some extra kits for that, but I have a bunch of other kits that I bought that were like just cheap on sale kits that I want to practice painting and weathering and stuff like that. Yeah. Well, but Back to the Future didn't have aliens. But yeah. And to answer Eric, I don't have blue tubs, but they are tubs. I guess technically the lids are sort of a cyan blue. I'm looking up at my row of tubs on a shelf up there. They're like the clear, the main body of them is clear, and then just the lid is sort of a cyan blue color, dark teal, cyan, whatever. I don't have any all blue tubs, but same thing.
The official blue tubs. Have you ever thought, I don't know if they have train sales in Southern California or San Diego. We call them flea markets.
Yeah.
We have a lot here. But my friends are like, well, I'd like to learn weathering before I, go after my scale trains rivet counter or my Rapido switcher. And I'm like, well, go to the flea market and buy, the $1 car, buy the $5 engine and go at it.
Yeah,
and I never see them do that. And I'm like, go buy that, buy that $1 gondola and go.
Yeah.
If it turns out like crap, get out a spray can of Krylon black, paint it black, and go at it again.
Yeah, so we don't really have that or haven't that I'm aware of, those kind of things. Although the San Diego Railroad Museum just had a sort of garage sale thing where people were bringing in stuff to sell, old stuff to sell, but it was more of a sort of fundraiser for the museum, I think. But what I did is I just bought a bunch of cheap crap off of eBay. So I have, a handful of HO and scale cars that I can practice painting and weathering and decaling on.
Oh, good. Okay, so you have some of those, yeah. I'm always
and I bought Switchline decals. Ended up doing. So they had a bunch of the Genesee and Wyoming decal sets, and I emailed them, hey, can you make a set for VCRR? And they did. So I bought N-scale and HO scale VCRR decals from them. So I'm planning on making some, cars that are, because Ventura Canyon Railway doesn't actually have any cars. They just have their logos. Technically, they have a caboose, but it's in their little yard and it never goes anywhere. But I was going to, just paint, do up some hoppers or box cars with the VCR logos for fun, right? Send them out to friends of mine that, like you, if you send me one, I'll send you that kind of thing.
No, I get a kick out of that. I see what you did, or even just send the decals. You know.
Yeah, I might do that too because I bought they're fairly cheap, so I bought like 2 or 3 sheets of each scale, right? And the way what they ended up doing was it's not you don't get a super lot out of it because it was tailored towards the locomotives, so it's got like all the extra stripes and various things that are decaled onto the locomotives. But I could still use a couple of sheets, a couple of the logos off of there on a car to make it look like a VCR car. So that's what I plan to do.
Yeah, that would. I know those. Is it Genesee in Wyoming? Is that what you called it, or?
Yeah, the G&W, that orange, it's orange with the black stripes and the yellow stripes. Like that's their standard paint scheme. You see it on a lot of the local lines that they own. The Genesee and Wyoming paint scheme.
Yeah.
The Oxnard VCR uses that paint scheme now for their. I think they have 3 logos. They have a GP 15-1, which I actually have the model of in both N and HO because they've made that model. And then they have a GP 7U and a GP 38-2.
A GP70, so that must be a rebuilt Jeep. Okay.
Yeah, it's a GP7U, so it's a GP7 where the cab and the hood are a modern. They like replace the cabin hood, so it's like a low hood for the front
cool.
hood. So it looks kind of like a more modern GP than a GP7, even though it's still a GP7 rebuilt. And but yeah, they mostly use the GP 15-1 and the GP 38. Occasionally you see the 7U. I haven't seen it in a while, so they may have sold it.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it on any of the Railfanning videos in quite a while, but I've seen it in the past on older videos.
I think maybe they transfer them around to their own properties too.
Possibly, but they definitely have. I've seen both the 15 and the 38 a lot still, even in recent videos. So I know that those 2 are still there. Knits, fleas.
So we're all talking about the bugs tonight.
Flea markets, nitpickers, and raids. I'm not sure what Eric means by ATSF 2010. I mean, I know what ATSF is, but
I wonder if that's the engine that it was.
Oh, the 7U, maybe.
Former Santa Fe. So San Diego just has the BNSF, and then of course the passengers. I guess I saw the new coasters. They were showing that on Reddit.
Yeah.
You guys were like, ooh.
Yeah, so we got BNSF, and then we got their own little metro trolley cars, essentially.
Yeah.
And then there's another, I think it's Metrolink, does come down part way to San Diego, but not all the way. And then Amtrak, tons of Amtrak. And occasionally you'll see some foreign power come through San Diego.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Do they have a direct connection with the Mexican railways?
Yeah, so there's the main line. If you go all the way down out of the southern part of the BNSF yard, you eventually get to a little tiny yard that's right before the Mexico border, and then there's like a gate and whatnot, and occasionally we'll see trains go through there. I think they just like take the cars to the other side, drop them off, and then some Mexican train picks them up.
Yeah. They can't come too far in the border. I know they were doing that in Texas, and our union shut them down.
Yeah,
because they're going, it's too much congestion at the border. So Union Pacific was allowing the trains to come across. I think it was almost up to 20 miles. and the Brotherhood of Locomotive Engineers shut that right down. We're like, no, there'll be none of that. And
yeah, I'm not really sure, but there's like a small little yard that's like just a few miles before the border, and it's like on Google Maps, there's like a bunch of really old crap on a couple of the tracks there, and then a couple of the other tracks are just rotating, like they're modern stuff that's just sort of parked there temporarily. But I know I remember that at least at one time that little tiny yard had one of the old Burlington red and white locos in it.
oh, really?
Yeah, it was beat up and not in service, but it was sitting there in that little yard. And the main BNSF yard typically has some Santa Fe. They have I think it's a GP50 that's in the red and silver, the silver with the red bonnet.
Oh, sure.
And then 60, I believe it's a 60 that's the blue and yellow war bonnet scheme for Santa Fe. Patch for BNSF, of course, but sitting in the yard, I think they use it occasionally for yard switching or something. But yeah, I don't know nearly as much about the San Diego stuff as I do about the Oxnard stuff.
Yeah,
I've been focusing on that and researching it a lot.
Yeah. No, what you model is very interesting. I love that. You're showing me the views of the car unloader.
Yeah,
and all the auto dealers there, and now you said the paper things. That's just really cool.
Yeah, so I get lumber, paper, a cement place that receives cement hoppers, and then the paper mills are all usually box cars, and then tons of auto racks, and the occasional military train, which is usually flat cars with a bunch of tanks and Humvees. I just had one go through recently too, and usually that the military trains are where we see the foreign power the most. So like Oxnard usually doesn't see BNSF at all, but just like a few weeks ago, there was a BNSF power, 3 locos, I think, that pulled a military train up from San Diego, dropped it off at Oxnard, and then, got transferred into the VCRR area to that base, the Port Nemi base. And then there was also just like 2 days ago, there was a military train that was a bunch of Humvees and Hummer trucks that was a UP lead, but they had a Norfolk Southern engine in the consist. So, so I think it was -9, and it sounded like you could hear it. That distinctive sound that those -9s make, the engines.
It is kind of a neat sound.
Yeah. But like we almost never see, like I don't recall on any of the past Railfanning videos, because I've been watching them and I went back through all their back catalog, going all the way back to like the early 2000s for some of them. And the only ones I was seeing besides locals was CSX occasionally, but seeing a Norfolk Southern engine was pretty rare. Kind of cool.
Yeah.
Whereas Pack East, they're all over the place, right? It's all CSX,
right? Yeah.
NS. And out here, it's all UP and BNSF.
Yeah, we have so much pool power here. It's just like,
yeah.
I think a rare one would be probably a Florida East Coast or something. But because we get the unit potash trains are all CSX, and they have unit grain trains that are all Norfolk Southern. The BN and the CP and UP, so.
Yeah, so Randall, you're probably right. I'm not really great at identifying all the GP models. So it's probably was a GP60 for the red and silver, and maybe it was the blue and yellow that was a GP50.
Because I think they had the GP50s and the GP60s in the blue and yellow. But when the wide cabs came, Randall probably knows, the wide cabs came in the red and silver.
Yeah.
But I think they had standard cab GP60s in the blue and yellow war bonnet. That would be my...
And the blue and yellow war bonnet is my favorite paint scheme in general. I really like that. As far as Santa Fe goes, I mean,
right.
I think my all-time favorite paint scheme is the Black Widow Southern Pacific / Cotton Belt paint scheme.
Oh yeah,
I really like that.
I wish I could have seen it in real life.
Yeah.
It's and it's one of those things cool that it looks really good dirty.
Yeah.
I like weathered war, that black and stuff is just kind of cool. So
yeah, I guess I also really like the ancient zebra black and white Santa Fe locos. Like on,
oh really?
I have what is it, GP7 and a GP9 that are in that. It's like mostly black, but then it has like the black and white stripes for parts of it, and then it's got the blue, the old blue and white Santa Fe logo, just like a little square with the circle inside of it. That I like dark colors, like the dark blues and the blacks and stuff like that. Those schemes are more interesting to me. I have a lot of the UP bright yellow just because that's the prototype.
Right, that's what you have to have and stuff.
Right, but I've also bought a bunch of their heritage ones just because they're not yellow. Like Katie is bright red.
Yeah. No, I understand that and stuff. Yeah, I don't know what my favorite scheme would be. Because I like things in there where they belong. I love the Rio Grande black and gold with that speed lettering. I like the Western Pacific, and I thought, to me, I think one of the classiest paint schemes was the old Canadian Pacific maroon and gray with that script lettering and a gold line was just to die for. But
my second favorite Southern Pacific scheme, mostly because this is what I saw when I was a kid living in Oxnard, was the bloody nose with the speed lettering. After they had merged. So there was, Southern Pacific speed lettering. It's a black logo with a red front, and it was very distinctive. And I just saw them all the time because that's, growing up in Oxnard before UP, it was, it was Southern Pacific, and that's the paint scheme that I saw the most.
Right.
In like the 80s and 90s before they got bought.
And that would, I think if I couldn't model what I'm modeling, if for some odd reason I moved or changed, I'd probably model a Southern Pacific branch line in Southern California, a small yard, and then one line goes to the city and one line goes to the country. I with Jeep 9s and MP15 ACs and then have if I could have a staging yard with a huge road train going by with all the SDs and endless box cars, just dragging down the coastline. And I like the SP with all the lights, But I think that's the thing now is like if you want to model something like that, all the models have come out.
Yeah. I mean, that's one benefit of modeling a UP line is that everything has a UP variant. Like every engine, everything. There's a UP variant of every engine pretty much. Because they had every engine, including like I have one of the veranda turbines in UP, and I have the DDA40X. I have a couple of those, just I think they're cool, right? They're obviously not prototypical, but I'm still going to run them occasionally for fun.
Good.
And I got in on the last round of pre-orders from Scale Trains to get one of the Decals, right? The turbine with the two power units and the one tender.
You get it? Did they make it an N scale?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
I just watched
scale.
a video on that. There's a British guy who does mega machines, and so he did one on the G-Tels.
Yeah.
It's kind of sad because he like only gets his stock footage from like one movie, so you can only see like you see the same 5 pictures over and over as this
Right.
British guy's trying to explain. And the Centennials. No, the Centennials are my favorite engines.
Yeah.
And that was
They're
when
very cool.
I had them, and I'm like, I finally had to give them up because I said I can't model them. But
Yeah, I have a stupid number of them because I was it was early on and I was on eBay and I would catch some deals on them. I thought they were cool, and then they ended up being like the super crappy old ones.
oh, the Bachmann ones or whatever.
Well, they're all Bachmann, like all the ones that you can get are Bachmann, but
Oh, are they? Okay.
they had like 4 different types over the years. So they had a really old one in the 80s that was super crappy, where the motor was just in the front truck and the back truck was a pickup only, and it's awful. So I have a couple of those, but they were like super cheap eBay buys. And then they did a nicer one, like a Spectrum line one in the 90s, that is a better mechanism, but it's not really DCC friendly. You have to sort of hand wire it. And then even later, they did one, well, 2 basically. They did a DCC and a DCC with sound. So I have some of each of those.
Do you have any SD40s to go with them? Any snoot nose 40s for the?
I do have some SD40s because I really like the look of the SD40s. I have some SD40s, some SD40-2s, and even a couple of tunnel motor SD40s.
Oh, nice.
In various paint schemes, not all UP. I have a couple of them in UP, but also in like Southern Pacific and some of the other. Like I have a Conrail one, just because I really like Conrail blue.
You have a Conrail tunnel motor?
No, it's just a Conrail SD40.
Okay,
SD40 Conrail. It's a BLI. Runs pretty good.
What's weird about the Conrail ones, if you ever look at their 40-2s, they never bought the 40-2 trucks.
Oh.
They went to the standard trucks without the snubber on there. And Conrail's cool. Yeah, I always wanted a Union Pacific lash-up of 2 Centennials and one of those high-geared SD40s with a piggyback train. That was just... But I thought someone else I thought Athearn made N-scale Centennials.
I'm not aware of anyone but Bachmann having N-scale.
Yeah,
Athearn made HOs, and I have one of the Athearn Genesis HO DD40s that were just recently released.
Oh, the newer ones, those are sweet.
Yeah, it's really nice.
Yeah, they were brass killers. I had a couple in brass Overland models I sold back in the day. I had all kinds of big power U50s, U50Cs. I'm like, oh.
I have some U50s in N-scale. The Athearn Genesis DD40X that I bought in HO, I can't really run. I mean, I can run it. Like, it can go back and forth across my tiny 10-foot layout. But I can't run it through any of the number 4 switches, only the number 6s.
Yeah.
And it's like I can have it and one car in the siding, because that my HO layout is meant to be for old school switchers, right? Little 4 axle switchers. So, but I just really love the Centennial, like just big monster power that wasn't really that powerful. Wasn't powerful enough. Right. it turned out to be more cost effective to just run multiple smaller engines because of maintenance and whatnot, apparently. Although you would know more than I do, but I think that's the story.
Well, they were experimental. I mean, they did what they did. They lasted 15 years. That's all an engine used to last.
Yeah.
You know, they were the test bed for the Dash 2s.
Okay.
And you know, I liked them. I thought it was interesting test bed for the wide cab. You know, a lot of things. Okay, Scale Trains Rivet Counter. See, I've never owned a Scale Trains engine.
So
I have Genesis.
I have one Scale Trains engine. It's the one I won from Jack for that build, but it's not a Rivet Counter. It's just an operator. But it's pretty nice, even as an operator. The sound is super shitty. I'm swapping out their speaker for one I got from, I forgot the name of the site, but James, Boulder Creek Yard, hooked me up with this site that makes custom 3D printed baffles and speaker combinations that are designed to fit in various commercial engines to replace their shitty speakers. And he did it with one of his Scale Trains, and it improved the sound dramatically. So I have that. I'm going to swap it in to make it sound better.
So you're leaving the Loc sound in there.
Yeah, I'm leaving the decoder and everything. I'm just swapping out the speaker for a better speaker.
Okay.
And then all the rest of my HO stuff is either Athearn Genesis or old school, like Proto 2000s and Walther's Proto 2000 remakes, right? Walther's mainline that basically they took an old Proto 2000 and updated a little bit. They're all like old switchers, but I don't have very many of those. Most of my stuff is in scale, but you know, I'm not quite to Heath level, but I didn't want to be stuck in one scale. There's some neat stuff in HO that I can't get. You know?
No, that's the thing. There's neat stuff in everything. In every scale, there's something cool. So
yeah, but I definitely, I'm really happy with how much I can get in this room within scale for my layout, without having to even go double deck or anything. So I'm not really too, originally I was planning like, I'm going to put a helix in the corner and have a second deck up to the top, but I'm probably not going to do that. I'll just keep it all on one level. I may build a second deck above part of it, but that won't be connected. It'll just be a separate layout.
Oh, cool.
Because I'd still like to model a portion of San Diego, just because that's where I live now, right? So, but that's a long ways off. Maybe when I retire, which is like 12 plus years away.
Right.
But yeah, I've basically committed. I'm gonna be doing model railroading forever in some form or another from now on.
No,
I did it.
Yeah.
I did it in the 90s for a little while and then packed it all away when I moved and rediscovered it during the lockdowns in 2020 and found all you guys, like crazy people on YouTube, which never existed back then.
Right.
And that helped inspire me to want to do a more involved proper layout, is seeing all the videos of all the YouTubers, all the people that are watching, and the whole community in general. So I've put a lot of money into it, so I'm not giving it up now. I'm turning to look at the piles of stuff that I still have to build and put together.
Well, as long as you're enjoying it.
Oh, I am. That's part of why I think I'll still be doing it, is I really enjoy it. I go in and out. Like I haven't done a whole lot recently because I've been sort of busy with life and work. But you know, this summer it'll probably be kind of similar to last summer and the summer before, where I just like go nuts for a little while and build and work on a bunch of stuff. I hope. Depends on work and life again, but work is settled down for the most part. Our next milestone isn't until the fall, so we'll be getting busy until like September, October, or something like that. Yeah. Locomotive 5 is pretty good. And the thing I like about Loc Sound, I mean, I have the programmer, so it's not a big deal, but I like that you can just go download the sounds and update your encoder, you know, your decoder to the appropriate sound for the locomotive you have pretty easily. Whereas, you know, for soundtracks, you have to buy the correct decoder that has the sound set you want in it.
Yes.
And they don't have every engine, right? Whereas at least with Loc Sound, you can go onto their site and they pretty much got everything.
Right.
Either from them or third party.
Yeah.
I mean, I admit it's a little more hassle because you have to have their custom programmer to update the sounds, but once you have that, it's pretty nice. And I've learned that I don't really want sound on all the time.
No. Oh God.
At least not in N-scale because it gets really grating.
Oh, it does here too in HO.
Yeah, I mean I have the HO ones too, but at least the HO ones, they have enough you know, speaker volume in, you know, in their baffles and stuff to sound pretty decent. It's just that I still don't want it on all the time. Like usually when I'm just running my trains by myself, I have it all muted and I'm just listening to music and running my operations, which I won't be able to do when I actually start filming them. But, you know.
Yeah, it's one or the other. Yeah. So, all right, about 2 hours. Let's call her a night.
Yeah, I was going to say it's getting late there.
Yeah, midnight here, and then I'm going to get up with the grandkid tomorrow. But thank you, Roy. Thanks for carrying the show. I got got 5 cars done. I didn't think I'd get this many done. I should have cut out more decals, but this is good. I think I got 20 to do, and I'm just 5 at a time. Otherwise, I'll quit. So.
Yeah, I'm surprised we still have 9. Well, I guess 8 now. It just dropped down to 8 people watching still.
Yeah. Good night, David. Yeah. Well, like I said, we got the West Coast crowd, and Randall, who's a night owl. He's like our sororities and stuff. But I think this will work out. This is fine for me. Yeah.
I would probably not want to go for 2 hours every time.
No. I'd like an hour to an hour and a half.
Yeah. No, that sounds good.
But we had a good conversation and people were chiming in, and I like people dropping in and out. It's kind of like a house party.
Yeah. You know? Oh, so Central Time is still around. That's what's going on. David is in Central Time.
Yeah. Well, David Mountain Time, so he's 11:15.
Yeah.
23:15.
So he's only an hour out from me, whereas you're 2 hours out.
2 hours out. Yeah.
Your Central Time, and then.
But that's fine. I'm a night owl anyway, so.
Yeah. Well, I'm a night owl too. I'll be up till 1 a.m. or later.
Yeah, I will too. I got things I got to do and stuff. But yeah, I'd like to do an operations one, and like I said, I'll probably be building those switches live. And if you got a workbench project, and then in
the future,
we'll get together and find a way to make you. Unless you want to show me real quick now what I need to do to make you.
I have no idea.
Okay, I'll ask Keith.
It's some configuration in StreamYard that you'll have to do to add me as a co-host to your StreamYard. And then when I'm logged in, I'll be able to join as a co-host.
Yeah, I think like I had this when I had it for the division. There was 2 of us, and I had like the superintendent and I. We'd go do live streams at somebody's layout.
Mm.
And but I'll have to look on StreamYard. I'll ask Heath that, and I'm sure he'll give me some answer I'll forget, so I better write it down.
Yeah.
And that's probably why he got rid of StreamYard. And I'm like, well, whatever.
Well, he wanted higher quality and more control. Heath is always about being in control of all the details.
Yes,
and StreamYard doesn't give you that. So
yeah, and you got
I don't
to
blame
pay
him.
more. No, I don't blame him. Find what you got. It's railroading. Use what works for you.
Yeah. Okay. So good night, everyone. See you later, Randall and David and anyone else is still around. If Eric's still there, see ya.
Thank you, guys. Thanks, Randall.
And
David.
Fun chatting with you too,
Nancy.
Thomas.
Yes, always, Roy. It's a joy. Thank you for carrying the conversation.
Yeah. Hopefully, in the future we'll get a little better at paying attention to chat because I missed a bunch of stuff. I was scrolling back, looking.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I kept up with that. I like chat. I gotta figure out. I tried to post. Good night. I tried to post a photo on YouTube. I made a thumbnail, but they want like. For the community, you have to have it in like 5:2 ratio. And I'm like, I'll have to figure that out. Because usually I just take a picture and put it up there and say, hey, we're going to be on tonight.
Yeah.
So, things to learn. And then I'll talk to you about this storage too as I go on because we're getting new iPhones and I hate the cloud. I literally hate it. I just do. I don't want to pay all that money for something I don't know. I'm like,
yeah, there's some pretty decent backup services though, and if you get like a Synology NAS, they literally have some built-in apps that you can connect up to the cloud backup services to just automatically do it for you.
Yep. All right, my friend.
We can chat about that on Discord.
All right, my friend. Thank you. Good night, everybody.
See
Be
ya.
safe.